Hello and welcome to News Round, where we bring you a recap of stories that made headlines during the week. I'm Olumide Macaulay. Thank you for joining us. The headlines. Its justice served as a Lagos High Court convicts and sentences to death by hanging BRT driver Andrew Ominikoron for the murder of 22-year-old fashion designer Bamise Ayanwola. And then, the embattled leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, was also in the news. The Federal High Court granted the federal government's request for witnesses to testify behind screens in his trial. Organized labor put forward demands during May Day celebration. Among them is an upward review of the retirement age and service years of all public and civil servants to 65 and 40 years, respectively. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer says the Labour Party's by-election loss to reform in Runcorn and Helsby is disappointing. That's News Round in View. We begin News Round from the courts. A verdict from the Lagos High Court sitting at the Tafawa Balewa Square has sentenced bus rapid transit BRT driver Andrew Ominikoron to death by hanging for the murder of a 22-year-old fashion designer Bamise Ayanwola. In a judgment that lasted over 2.5 hours, Justice Serifat Shonaike held that the prosecution, the Lagos State government, had successfully proven beyond reasonable doubt that the defendant committed the offense of murder. The convict was also handed a 14-year jail term for the attempted rape of the deceased, life imprisonment for the rape of another young woman, as well as another 3-year jail term for the sexual assault of a third young woman.
The trial of the bus rapid transit BRT driver began 3 years ago in March 2022, when he was charged before the Lagos High Court, sitting at the Tafawa Balewa Square on the Lagos Island, on a 5-count charge bordering on conspiracy, attempted rape, murder, and sexual assault. The defendant pleaded not guilty. But 3 years later, the court has returned a guilty verdict on 4 out of those 5 counts. The news of the death of the deceased 22-year-old fashion designer Bamise Ayanwola went viral at the time, particularly for the gruesome manner in which she was murdered. Her body was discovered along the Carter Bridge Expressway 9 days later. In her judgment, Justice Serifat Shonaike held that even though there was no direct eyewitness account to the incident, the court relied on a series of circumstantial evidence, the evidence of the pathologist, the dying declaration of the victim, as evidenced by the voice notes, all of which the judge said pointed solely to the defendant as the last person to see her before her death. By his own admission, the BRT driver said she boarded his bus alone, and when combined with his history of raping his female passengers, evidenced by the extrajudicial statements of at least 2 of them, and the terrifying voice notes sent out by Bamise just before she died, the court held that there was only one irresistible conclusion, that the defendant and no one else murdered the deceased. The court sentenced him to death by hanging for the murder. The convict was also found guilty of attempted rape of the deceased and given another 14-year jail term for that offense. The court, however, discharged the defendant on the offense of conspiracy, insisting that the prosecution had not proved sane.
He didn't do this thing alone. All right. So from the admissible voice notes Bamise dropped, were made to know that there are other people in the vehicle. All right. There are other people in the vehicle. So if this is all Nigeria police can give us, they cannot bring the phone she was using to do the conversation. Because when this guy was tracked, it was actually tracked. We were tracking the phone of Bamise and himself. And they were in the same location. All right. So when you got this guy, definitely Bamise's phone was with him. All right. So what happened? What about these other accomplices?
We have always been asking, the convict now, who has been a murder suspect, we are told that he has been in prison custody. And we want the prison authorities, or the authorities rather, to confirm to the whole world if indeed, as at the time Andrew was arrested, he has actually been in prison. Because, so that it do not be like a case of, Bobrisky, who were later told that he was in prison, now said that there was a rented apartment very close there. And on the day of coming to court, he will come.
While the defendant's counsel has vowed to appeal the judgment, the trial court has also appealed to transport authorities to overhaul their recruitment processes to ensure passenger safety, particularly for vulnerable individuals. Shola Shoyele, Channels Television News.
Staying with the courts, the federal government has formally opened its case by calling its first witness against the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, on allegations of alleged terrorism. At the last hearing, the trial judge, Justice James Omotosho, had approved an accelerated hearing on the 7-count terrorism charge leveled against him.
The leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, is back at the Federal High Court Abuja for his trial in a case of alleged terrorism leveled against him by the federal government. Mr. Kanu, who is all smiles, is received by his defense team. Present in court also are his family members. At the last hearing, the trial judge had approved an accelerated hearing of the case, and he kept to his words, just as the counsel to the federal government, Adegboyega Ayanwola, called its first witness, a DSS officer, who testified behind the screen. This, according to him, is due to the nature of the case and for security reasons. The first witness of the federal government, with code name PWAAA, says he led the team that arrested Kanu at a hotel in Lagos on the 14th of October 2015, and the room where he was arrested looks like a broadcasting studio. Mr. Kanu, who claimed to be in the struggle to make life better for people, admits setting up Radio Biafra as a communication engineer. He, however, admitted not having a license to operate a radio station in Nigeria, which is a crime, but defends his action, saying he knows that if he applies, it won't be granted. In Mr. Kanu's statement, he further admits to fighting for emancipation of the people of Southeast, South-South, parts of Benue and Kogi. He declared that freedom fighting is not a crime in any part of the world, including Nigeria, because it is a fundamental right. The defendant further adds that he believes in the freedom of speech and that the UN Charter on People's Rights guarantees the right to self-determination. He denies involvement in any violence because he has not been linked to anyone. The defense team speaks after the day's proceeding, just as the prosecution declines to react.
The matter has eventually kicked off without rancor. You know, you needed to have been in court to observe the proceedings. All the parties cooperated, and PW1 testified. PW1 is Mr. AAA, as he was designated. He investigated the matter 10 years ago, and today he came and gave his evidence and tendered documents.
The government is finally having the trial that it desires. Our position still remains unchanged despite the ongoing trial, that our client is innocent of the charges, that the case is driven by political considerations, and in the end, the innocence of our client will be established.
After 10 long years, finally Nnamdi Kanu now has his day in court as the Nigerian government called its first witness. The case continues on Friday, May 2nd, under cross-examination by Kanu's lawyer. From the Federal High Court, Abuja, Ayanwola Ekele, Channels Television News.
Away from the courts and how Nigerians mark Workers' Day, also known as May Day, an annual celebration around the world which highlights the struggles, achievements, and rights of workers. During the celebration held at the Eagle Square, Abuja, organized labor demanded an upward review of all public and civil servants from 60 to 65 years of service and from 35 to 40 years of age. This is part of the demands put forward by both the President of the Nigeria Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress, comrades Joe Ajero and Festus Osifo.
Workers from across the Federal Capital Territory in different attires stream into the Eagle Square in Abuja to celebrate May Day and amplify their demands for better working conditions and rights. The leaders of the Nigerian Labour Congress and Trade Union Congress sound the alarm over the declining welfare of workers as the cost of living soars.
We suggest once again that government should deliberately put more money into the hands of workers who drive the economy, who drive the local economy, support local industries, and recover and expand, end the statistical gerrymandering, rebasing inflation, unemployment, and GDP figures does not feed the people.
Stop the compression of civic space. Number 2, implement minimum wage that reflect current realities. Number 3, withdraw exploitative tax bill. Number 4, reduce telco tariffs as agreed from 50 to 35%. Number 5, reverse electricity privatization. Number 6, end impunity, killings, and insecurity.
All the demands listed by the organized labor in the program for the event are upward review of the retirement age of all workers from 60 years to 65 years and service years from 35 years to 40 years, restoration of gratuity payments, withdrawal of the tax bills that are before the National Assembly, as well as the reversal of the suspension of the democratically elected government of Rivers State. However, President Bola Tinubu, represented by the Minister of Labour and Employment, Mr. Mohammed Dingadi, says his government is committed to providing an enabling environment for the workers to thrive.
As a government, we will continue to strengthen labour protections, improving job security, and ensuring fair treatment for all workers in line with international best practices, and at the same time, addressing issues of unemployment, which remains a significant concern.
With the speeches over, the March Past parade kicks off. Some workers speak about their expectations.
Unity is our strength, and we will continue to embrace one another. We will continue to do everything possible to be accountable.
We want also to continue to plead that something has to be done about the so-called minimum wage, because it cannot take anybody home.
Despite the challenges, a palpable sense of optimism reverberates among the workers as they showcase their diverse professions and vocations. Nigerian workers have spoken, the government has listened. What is next is the question lingering on the minds of these excited workers today. And as the drum of the May Day celebration fades, their wish is that the government will grant their demands. From the Eagle Square in Abuja, Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
The Speaker of the House of Representatives, Tajuddin Abbas, is optimistic the political party's bill, which is past second reading in the House of Representatives, when passed into law, will be a signature achievement for the 10th Assembly, just the way the not-too-young-to-run bill was for the 9th Assembly. The Speaker gave this position at a technical workshop for members of the House Committee on Political Party Matters in Abuja, where he was represented by Mr. Ishaya Lalu.
The Chairman, House Committee on Political Parties and other members of the committee are attending this workshop in Abuja to brainstorm on the bill before conducting public hearing. The Political Parties Bill seeks to enhance the operational mechanism of political parties in Nigeria, a law that the lawmakers hope will help to reduce inter-party crisis and minimize corruption.
Most of the times, one of the challenges we have in this democracy is the role of the political parties, where candidates are emerging during primaries. Without proper regulation, we have seen a lot of crisis. And since we are trying to improve on our democracy, this bill is very, very important. Okay.
Other participants also underscored the importance of the bill and the need for lawmakers to consider the overall interest of citizens.
And so as we reflect on this bill, it is important that we consider the progressive parts of this bill. That the bill in itself may not be perfect, but this bill is desirable. It is desirable because it will reform our party system.
This call for regular Constitutional and Electoral Act amendment to correct the lapses and the ongoing constitutional and electoral review is yet another opportunity to rectify the flaws, thus strengthening our hard-earned democracy.
Your palms are not yet hurting. Thank you.
The representative of the Speaker of the House of Representatives is optimistic that the bill, when passed into law, will be a legacy achievement for the 10th Assembly.
This is a very important day in the life of the 10th Assembly because we have it that this particular bill will serve as one of our signature of the 10th Assembly House of Reps by the grace of God. Just as the not too young to run become a signature of the 8th Assembly.
The political parties bill seeks to address issues of registration, regulation and funding of political parties in Nigeria, functions many hope will help to enhance the operations of political parties in the country.
Vice President Kashim Shettima has described the latest defections in Delta State as a political tsunami. This is just as the defectors, that's the governor of Delta State, Sheriff Oborevori, former governor Ayanwola, and other major political stakeholders were officially received into the APC by chieftains of the ruling party, including the vice president, the party's national chairman, Abdullahi Ganduje, Senator Adams Oshomole, Governor Hope Uzodinma of Imo State, who is the chairman of the Progressive Governors Forum, amongst other political bigwigs.
The event bears all the hallmarks of a high-level defection. The atmosphere is carnival-like as the cenotaph in Asaba, the Delta State capital, overflows with a large crowd, mostly dressed in yellow.
Hey, stop the dance, stop the dance, stop the dance, stop the dance. Are you certified?
Vice President Kashim Shettima headlines a prominent gathering which includes APC governors, key National Assembly members, and the top leadership of the ruling APC.
I want to thank my brother governor.
The tone is set by the chairman of the Progressives Governors Forum and governor of Imo State, Hope Uzodinma.
Both the federal and subnational governments are sufficiently represented here. We have even SSA political, Alhaji Ibrahim Masari, Waziri Katsina in our midst. So the party is complete. The government is complete, ably led by our leader, the vice president. Carry go, carry go. It is. Carry go, carry go.
The main event then unfolds. Former Delta State Governor Dr. Ayanwola officially joins the APC.
I've been with you for so long. I would rather sacrifice everything that is in me for the best interest of Delta. And that decision that our governor took, that we needed to move after consultation with the leaders of the party, which was cascaded down to the local governments and the world. Let us go back home and let the people know that we have taken this decision in their best interest. God bless you all. APC!
Now it is my honor and privilege to hand over this flag and our symbol, the broom, to this great man who has now come into our great party APC.
Then comes the high point of the day, the culmination of what is being described as one of the most significant defections in recent memory. Governor Sheriff Oborevori officially joins the APC.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we are not Bobona. Are you Bobona? This is data. Data cannot carry last.
We have been in opposition for almost 10 years. Do we need that? Mr. President has supported us. He has shown us love. We cannot face him in 2027 to work against him. That love that he has shown to us in Delta State, we need to reciprocate it. We cannot do it in our own party. You have to be inside to do it, and to do it well.
Last but certainly not least is none other than Vice President Kashim Shettima.
What testimony could be greater than the promise of this day? A political tsunami of unimaginable proportion that has never happened in the history of the South region, and barely in the history of this country. A tsunami of this proportion had never happened. All the members of the upper chamber of the National Assembly are in the APC. The Speaker and all the members of the House of Assembly. So many members of the House of Representatives. The governor and his entire cabinet and 500 councillors across the 25 local government areas of this great state. What testimony do you have greater than this?
This event undoubtedly marks a significant shift, not just in the political dynamics of Delta State and the South-South region, but also at the national level, as the All Progressives Congress and its political rivals continue to strategize for the 2027 general elections.
We're in newsround, in the UK, where the Reform Party has gained control of several councils following by-election and mayoral election wins. The populist Reform, led by the veteran campaigner for Brexit, hopes Thursday's local elections in England will mark the breakdown of a century of domination of British politics by the governing Labour Party and opposition Conservatives. In the most closely watched contest for the vacant parliamentary seat of Runcorn and Helsby, Reform won by just 6 votes after a full recount, giving Nigel Farage's party its 5th seat in the House of Commons. Labour had won the seat in last year's national election with a majority of almost 15,000. Farage, long a supporter of U.S. President Donald Trump, has staked his anti-immigration party's claim to represent the right of British politics since the Conservatives lost more than half of their support in a general election last year. And that's it on Newsround, where we just brought you a recap of stories that made headlines during the week. Thank you for watching. I'm Olumide Macaulay.